Welcome, dear one, to the return of the sacred. Beginning January 11th of 2025 through July 27th of 2026, we have the North and South Node transiting Pisces and Virgo respectively. The North Node changes signs about every 18 months and makes its return to the same set of signs, in this case Pisces and Virgo, every 18.6 years. That means the last time we had this exact transit was June 22nd of 2006 through December 15th of 2007. So you can compare your life back then and what unfolded and what shifts happened, what culmination points did you reach, and likely the themes that played out at that time they have at least a good shot of repeating themselves as we go through these 18 months from January of 2025 through July of 2026. In general, Pisces North Node is a spiritual breakthrough transit. Okay, this is where the line starts to blur, the veil starts to thin between the 3D Earth experience, being represented in this case by the Virgo South Node, and the more esoteric, mystical, unknown and vastness of what even is going on here that we cannot see and hear and smell and taste and touch with our 3D physical senses, right? It's an opening of our spiritual experience. Like the question that you've probably heard, are you a human being having a spiritual experience, or are you a spiritual being having a human experience? Okay, this transit is likely to represent a turning point in your understanding of yourself and your life as a whole. Okay, and most likely there will also be some health implications. The Virgo South Node can often amplify things that we're going to talk about more later in this video, amplify things that can cause some peak experiences in terms of mental health struggles, physical health struggles, emotional health meltdowns of some sort, some types of health crashes that really amplify that question of what even is going on here? You know, why can't I keep up with everything that I'm trying to do? I should be able to do it all. Is that even true? Are you absolutely sure that that is true? Or are you a spiritual being having a human experience and there's a different type of guidance trying to find its way onto the surface of your life? This transit asks some really big questions, and the more we proactively lean in and tune in to our spirit, to what our emotional reality is trying to tell us, the gentler these messages can be delivered. But when we plug our ears and we ignore the signs and we zoom past all of the warnings, eventually, it's like the saying of when you listen to your body's whispers, you don't have to hear it scream. If you're not listening, your body will scream to get your attention because these messages are important. And so that is to give a warning that your ears can hear, hopefully, to amplify the importance of the subtle, intuitive messages that you most likely are already downloading. And there's a big difference between, can you hear it? That's absolutely step number one, is can you even hear your intuition? If you're anything like me, back in the day, I actually thought I did not have emotions. I was so emotionally repressed that I thought I was a robot without emotions. So if you can relate to that at all, please know, I see you. And now my intuition guides my life. The timing and the waves of emotions, I find them weaving me into situations in the gentlest, most loving, most joyful, most creative, most inspired way. But that means letting go of the plan. letting go of, well, by this date, I'm going to do this. And then because of this, I'm going to do this, and like make out this like gigantic life plan, like the saying, like when you make your plans, God laughs, because those plans are actually an illusion. And the more we grip on to our plan, our mental idea of what should be happening right now, the picture we have in our head of what we think should be happening right now, the more we cling to that, the more the mental health, the physical health, the emotional meltdowns are going to have to get louder to get your attention, to release the grip on the control of having a plan, and to lean more into the faith that everything is always working out for you. So I'm talking about this transit for the series that we're going to do together on this transit. I love the North and South node. I am actually a Pisces North node, Virgo South node. Myself, my Pisces North node lands in the 12th house of my natal chart, which is the house typically associated with Pisces. So I got a double dose of the Pisces 12th house energy to lean into. I also got a double dose of the Virgo South node in the 6th house, which Virgo is typically associated with the 6th house. So this is my jam. This is my lifelong nodal journey, is healing and working with integrating the karmic patterns of that Virgo South node by introducing proactively the healing medicine of the Pisces 12th house North node. So if you are at all interested in the rest of this message, please go ahead and click the like button on this video. That is super helpful for letting the algorithm know that you enjoyed this video and that you want to be notified when the rest of the videos in this series come out. It also does a lot to help the channel grow and to help other people who might be a good fit for this content to know that, hey, there's good stuff in this video. So thank you so much for taking a moment to do that. I also want to let you know that in the description, you can find timestamps for the different chapters of what we're going to talk about throughout the course of this video, as we go through an overview of the Pisces North Node and Virgo South Node axis. So kind of that 30,000 foot view of what these 18 months and what this transit is likely to bring into our lives as far as a return of the sacred. Having eyes to see the sacred in everything. Okay, like that's what's in store with our intentional holding, our intentional effort, our attunement to our own intuition. That's where it's guiding us into what I would call heaven on earth. So again, this is a very exciting time. I'm doing my best to hold my excitement. When I get to feeling really intense, it's funny like how I calm and I still in the center, and just enjoy this moment of anticipation of what's coming, right? We have no idea. And often what's really coming is so much better than anything we could possibly imagine and therefore plan for. And that's the kind of hope and optimism that I'll be weaving through this series. What I won't be making a video on, I have something else for you to answer the question of how does this transit affect me personally? And to answer that question, I would want to know, what house does Pisces and Virgo, what houses do Pisces and Virgo fall in your natal chart? So maybe, like me, you've got Pisces in the 12th and Virgo in the 6th. Maybe you've got Pisces in the 2nd and Virgo in the 8th. All manner of combinations are possible depending on what your rising sign is. And so I'm not going to go through and make a video about the Pisces North Node through all 12 of the different houses. but I felt really strongly about answering that question in some kind of way. So I have a Pisces North Node transit guide for you. It's a downloadable PDF, totally free, that answers how does the Pisces North Node transit affect you personally. It interprets the Pisces North Node in the first house, second house, third house, all the way around, giving you practical exercises, reflection questions, journaling prompts, all kinds of things to help you connect with and personalize your experience of the Pisces North Node. I would say very minimal astrological knowledge is needed, all the way through to you may be an expert on your chart, and this will help you dive even deeper. So you can download that by visiting owningauthenticity.com/Pisces North Node. The link for that is also in the description box. Like I said, it's totally free for you to take advantage of that, to connect with this transit more personally, bringing the sacred more fully into your life. Will look a little bit different for everyone depending on what house Pisces occupies for you. So please feel free to use that resource if you are interested. Anybody else can download it as well if you'd like to forward it on to anybody else you know who might be interested in that transit. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this 30,000 foot overview of the Pisces North Node, Virgo South Node transit. So the first thing we're going to start with is looking at the North Node and South Node in general. So like apart from any of the signs, like no matter what signs you put the North and South Node in, what does the North Node represent? What does the South Node represent? And so for some of you, this may be a refresher. For others of you, this may be the first time you're hearing this. So I want to give it some time. Remember, there are chapters in the video description box so that you can jump ahead if you really want to. But this may also open up some new perspectives and some new layers to hear the refresher again from the leading edge of where you are today. Okay, so bear with me as we go through this in basic level detail. But I often find that within the most basic, the most simplicity, there is a whole universe of understanding and insight hiding within that. And this is also where I will invite you to please share your insights in the comments. I love reading your guys' comments. I love seeing how this moves energy and sparks aha moments within you. So if ever there's anything you want to share like that, please feel free. So let's start with the North Node. The North Node is our growth edge. Okay. And when I say growth edge, please read uncomfortable. Okay? Like it's meant to be stretchy. It's meant to be an adventure into the unknown. That's the whole point, is that this is where we grow, and we can only grow when we're uncomfortable. Right? And to contrast that, the South Node is the familiar ground. It's the comfort zone. It's the part that is so overdeveloped in you that there's an imbalance. It's like, imagine a teeter-totter, okay, where like you go up and you go down and you go up and you go down and everybody's having a fun ride. Sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down. When it comes to our South Node, it's like that sucker is like 500 pounds, okay? And your North Node over here is like a 10-pound little baby. And nobody's going anywhere, okay? Because the South Node is so heavy, so ingrained, so practiced that there isn't a balanced flow between these two energies. And so the North Node represents our soul's intended direction in this lifetime. It was like when you disclaimer alert for Carly's belief is about to be incoming. When you chose your entry point into this life, when you decided that I'll be born on that day, at that time, in that place, to that family, this is what I believe happened. You were essentially signing up for your next layer, your next level of Earth School curriculum. Okay, like when you take your kid to like kindergarten roundup and it's like enrollment day and like we're signing them up, like they're going to go to kindergarten. Being born is a lot like that, only we signed ourselves up. Okay, and the North Node that we were born under, that was us saying that this is what I'm going to study this time. So for your own natal chart, when you look at the sign of your North Node, that is your soul's intended direction in this lifetime. That is true every single day of your life. You meant to be growing in that direction. And then we have the transit North Node, right? Like everything in the sky is moving all the time. And so the transit North Node continues to make these laps of like every 18.6 years, it's back in the sign it was when you were born. And so if you were born during Pisces North Node, the North Node is back in Pisces for these 18 months and you're having your nodal return. However, if your North Node is normally in any of the other 11 signs, that means that you are still on the curriculum of, let's say, the Aquarius North Node plan. All right, that's still true for you. And the entire collective is going through a chapter of the Pisces North Node curriculum. So this is kind of how you would weave together the transit of the North Node with your natal North Node. And that's a lot of the videos that I'll make in this series are how to weave those together. Like, okay, so yes, everybody's living under the Pisces North Node, but let's say, for example, you're a Leo North Node. I have videos coming up, and that's why I say like the video if you want to be notified every time one of these videos comes out. I have videos coming up where I'll say, like, okay, so for Leo North Nodes, here's how you would use the Pisces North Node chapter to advance in your natal North Node in Leo evolution. So how to weave those two things together. So those are coming down the pipeline. The North Node by nature feels unfamiliar and challenging. And I would say because of that, because of the unfamiliar and the challenging part, really double underline the challenging part, it's also deeply fulfilling when you pursue it. All right. And if you have spent any time around my channel, you know how excited I get about fulfillment. I love food on every level, okay? Like physical food, emotional food, spiritual food, mental food. I am eating all day, every day. It's just like, what kind of food is it? Okay, what type? And because I'm so obsessed with food, I am also very obsessed with feeling full. And so much of my mental health struggles for the first like 28 years of my life were because I was hungry. I was so hungry on every level. Okay. And I would just eat and eat and eat physical food to try to fill up this hungriness, not realizing I'm mentally hungry. I'm emotionally hungry. I'm spiritually hungry. And those types of food are very different than physical food. Okay, so the deep fulfillment of pursuing your North Node is one of the main reasons I talk on and 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 on about the North and South Node. Because when we spin in the comfort zone of what's familiar, what's safe, we get hungrier and more miserable. We die in our comfort zone and we live in our discomfort zone. Okay, we come to life. We feel alive. And I am very passionate about not necessarily living like you're dying. Okay, I think that's like not exactly sending the right message according to what I believe is true. I believe in living like you're alive. All right. Which means take the chances, step outside your comfort zone, do what's unfamiliar yet deeply fulfilling. The North Node also points to qualities and experiences that expand our consciousness. Okay. And this is tugging at me into a rabbit hole of like consciousness and like what even is consciousness and like wanting to talk about it. Maybe we save that for another day. All right. And we'll just go with your own personal ideas around consciousness. Insert those here. And pursuing your North Node expands your consciousness. And maybe another word for that is life, your life force energy. Pursuing your North Node gives you more energy. Just leave it there for today, but I can already tell we're going to do a deep dive on that at some point, which the next videos in this series will be a deep dive into the Pisces North Node and then a deep dive into the Virgo South Node. So we will get even more granular down into the layers of these subjects. So the North Node also shows us where we're learning to trust and step into the unknown. It's that concept of like comfort zone versus growth edge again. It also indicates where growth comes through embracing discomfort, right? Like often, and especially in my like one-to-one coaching scenarios that I do, like one-to-one work with people, often we want something that we're not living right now. Like we're like, I can see it. I want that thing. And I don't know how to get over there. And really what they're saying is like, I don't know how to get that thing to come into my comfort zone. Can you help me? Can you help me like get that thing to come over here where I am? And life just don't work like that. Okay. I don't want to burst your bubble, except I'm more than happy to burst your bubble because it actually is how it works. Is like, you got to get out of your comfort zone and go over to where that thing is. Okay. So that's scary. I get that. And that's why so much of the work I do with people is about regulating our nervous system. Like when we are scared, our entire body becomes dysregulated. We enter fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop, etc., etc. We start reacting like there's an actual predator chasing us. Okay. And like getting ourselves to come back into a regulated state where we can feel what we're feeling, but still make a deliberate choice. That is so much of the work that I do with people, is like how to be scared and make a step forward, right? It's not about like waiting till you're ready, because that's an illusion, but it is about knowing how to be with the incredibly dysregulating emotion of fear. And last but not least, the North Node also reveals the new skills and attributes we're developing for soul evolution. And that is really like a fancy way of saying, like, we're figuring out how to get the teeter-totter to go back and forth. And how do we do that? We need to make the North Node end. We need to make whatever sign your North Node is in, that energy is incredibly light in the configuration of your soul. And so how do we make that energy bigger? We consciously focus on it. When we give it our attention, it starts to gather mass. This is like law of attraction type conversation. So by focusing on it, by giving it our attention, by looking at the patterns, like what does that even mean to like consciously bring that energy into our life? I'm so glad you asked. That's what we answer on the PDF that I invited you to download, link in the description. What does it mean to bring, in this case, to bring Pisces energy more into your life? There's lots of different ways, and we're going to talk more about that when we get into the section in this video about the North Node in Pisces. For now, let's go ahead and give the South Node end of the spectrum its full treatment, okay? The South Node, the familiar ground, our comfort zone, our karmic past, it represents patterns and behaviors from past lives or early conditioning. Okay, so if you're somebody who's like a reincarnation person, hey, I relate. This is what you're bringing through from your past life, okay? Or if you aren't super into that idea of reincarnation and past lives, no worries. You can think about like, how were you conditioned by your family of origin or wherever you grew up in your very early years? That is those South Node patterns. It's so normal that you don't even see it. It's so normal, it's invisible. Okay. And this is another reason why sometimes our body has to scream at us to get our attention. But we'll get more into that when we talk about the South Node in Virgo. The South Node is also where we feel comfortable and natural. It's like a well-worn path that we easily fall into. It's like when you go unconscious, and I don't necessarily mean asleep. We can go unconscious when we are fully awake. When we are not paying attention and making deliberate choices, we will default to our South Node programming. Whether you believe that's from your past life, who you were, or from your early childhood, doesn't matter. It's our default. It's our default setting. It's the default way that we approach the world. It's the default way we try to find safety. It's our default. It shows, the South Node shows where we might get stuck if we don't push for growth. And stuck is going to look a little bit different depending on the sign the South Node is in. And that's why, again, we want to kind of, as we go through this contemplation of like, this is the transit of the Pisces North Node, we always want to keep one eye on what is your natal North Node. Because really the Pisces North Node transit is just helping to get another layer of your own natal North Node journey to come to the surface. Okay, and we're weaving those together always. The South Node also contains valuable skills and strengths that can support your journey. Okay, like, yes, the South Node is where we can get stuck, and it can present a lot of blocks and barricades. And in that feeling blocked and stuck, we can start to resent that energy. Okay. And I hear people, especially in my one-to-one coaching, talk about like, how do I get rid of that part? And I resonate with the urge to, how do I cut that part of myself off and be rid of it? Okay. Like another way to say that, how do I kill that part so it doesn't live in me anymore? And I take it to that extreme because I want you to hear the violence that you're doing on self when you say, how do I get rid of that part? Okay. And I go into all of that because the point of the South Node in general is not to get rid of it. All right. It might sound like it is, like the North Node is the direction we're heading in. Like that's where we're trying to go. We're trying to leave behind the South Node and we're trying to go towards the North Node. That's not fully accurate. Okay, the South Node represents the natural skills and talents and strengths that if you carry those with you into your North Node journey, you will actually have a much easier time developing the North Node end of the spectrum. It's never about getting rid of the part that you're trying to leave behind. It's about becoming more conscious of it, becoming more aware of it. Remember, we said the South Node is so normal that it's invisible. So what we're trying to do with the South Node end of things is to make it visible, to see when are you doing the South Node thing? When are you looping in the South Node pattern? And only you can answer that because only you know what is your natal South Node, what house is it in, what other aspects is it making in your chart. That will all inform what it looks like when you're looping in your South Node. The South Node also indicates areas where we might resort to autopilot during stress. Again, it's our default setting. It's like when we are overwhelmed, when we are feeling unsafe, it's like that is home base, the South Node. It's like we will run back to the South Node to get back in our comfort zone. And there is nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with a mindful retreat and like giving yourself some time to get stable and get your legs under you and like to feel stable and secure and then venture out from that place. There's nothing wrong with that. So again, we're not trying to chop it off and get rid of our comfort zone. We're just trying to become aware of when are you in your comfort zone and when are you leaving. Humans need a mix of comfort and freedom, of home and adventure, stability and uncertainty, right? Like the dance of life is both of these things. And the North Node represents adventure, uncertainty, coming up with expansion. And the South Node represents home and stability and the known. And they're both valuable. They're both valid. And really, to live the most fulfilling life is becoming conscious of where am I and what am I in the mood for? What am I hungry for? Sometimes I'm hungry for stability and home and centeredness. Sometimes I'm hungry for expansion and adventure and not really knowing what's going to happen next, right? And every single person watching this video has a different proportion of appetite for the stability end and for the adventure end. But everybody has a little bit of both, at least. Last but not least, the South Node points to habits and tendencies that once served us, but may now limit our growth. So next, we are going to do an overview of the North Node in Pisces. Like I mentioned, the next video in this series will be a deep dive into the North Node in Pisces. So we'll spend a good chunk of time nibbling away at this North Node in Pisces. I'm so excited about this series. But for the purpose of this conversation, let's go ahead and just give you a dose of what the Pisces North Node is really inviting us into. And then we'll do the same for the Virgo South Node. Then we'll put it all together. So we've got a lot of ground left to cover just even in this overview video. So remember, the North Node is our soul's growth direction. And as the North Node continuously transits the zodiac, it spends 18 months per sign. So it's spending 18 months in Pisces, and then it'll move on to spending 18 months in Aquarius, and so on and so forth. We're just finishing the Aries North Node, where it spent a year and a half, same as all the other signs, in Aries. So it's this continuous progression of unlocking and revealing layer after layer after layer after layer of your soul's expansion. And if you are anything even a little bit like me, this is a deliciously exciting adventure of continuously becoming a little bit more of who you were born to be. So let's see, what does the North Node in Pisces chapter invite us into as far as growing our soul? The Pisces North Node is a lot about developing intuition and spiritual awareness. So the fact that you're even watching this video tells me that you are already well underway with developing your intuition and your spiritual awareness, okay? There are so many different ways that we can do that. I want you to really hear how vague and open-ended and vast this concept is of develop your intuition and spiritual awareness. And it goes back to that question I asked at the very beginning of the video. Are you a human being having a spiritual experience? This is how most people relate to their life. Or are you a spiritual being having a human experience? Right? Who's at the center of your life? Is it the human identity that you believe you are? Or is it your spirit? Is it your higher self? Is it your God self? However you want to think about that. Who's at the center of your life? Who's making the decisions about your life? Right? And again, that is such an exciting place to dance because the decisions have to balance the stability of the earthly needs and the hunger our soul perpetually feels, this balance back and forth. But as we get better at hearing our intuition, it gives us a better chance of doing the actual important part of listening to our intuition, right? Hearing the intuition is one thing. Feeling the nudge, feeling the dread in the pit of our stomach, or the rush of excitement, or the full body hell yes energy that then our mind starts trying to talk us out of. Like, hearing the intuition is one thing. Listening to it, acting on it is really where life starts to get good. Okay. And when we talk more about the Virgo South Node end of things, it'll really complete this picture of like the intuition is calling us towards this thing over here. And then the Virgo South Node, the ego analytical planner part of us, gets in line and starts trying to be like, well, but what's the plan? Where's all the details? Okay, like I don't have enough information to leap off this cliff. And your intuition is like, jump, go for it, do it, you're going to love it. It's so amazing. And the Virgo South Node end is like, I can't. You haven't shown me the whole path yet. I can't go. You haven't given me a plan. And the Pisces North Node end is like, come on, it's so fun. Like, jump in. It's awesome in here. The water's great. It feels so good. And the Virgo South Node end is like, I don't think so. You haven't shown me the path, so I can't analyze the risks, so I can't make my backup plans. I can't go. Are you crazy? And it's like this question, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Which are you acting on? That's the question, right? Hearing your intuition end means that you at least have the opportunity to act on it. And yet, acting on it will be difficult, right? It's the whole point of the North Node, is that it's uncomfortable to go for it because of what the South Node is whispering in your ear. In this case, Virgo South Node is whispering about the plan that you haven't made yet, about all the risks that you haven't analyzed and created contingency plans for. Excuse me, what are you thinking? So the Pisces North Node is also inviting us to embrace compassion and unconditional love. Okay. And again, when we talk about the Virgo South Node end, it's going to paint a much fuller picture of why those things are so medicinal. But compassion and unconditional love, that is your birthright. Okay? Like, you are worthy of receiving compassion and unconditional love because you exist. You're breathing right now. That means you get these things. And the Virgo South Node really, really wants to earn it. Really, really believes that there's about a 47-point plan that needs to be executed perfectly in order for you to deserve love and compassion. And if you don't execute the plan, if you mess it up at all, not only are you not going to get compassion, you're going to get the shit beat out of you by yourself. Okay. Like, the perfectionism, the control is real when it comes to the Virgo South Node. And the antidote to that is compassion and unconditional love. Like, the fact that we even have to put unconditional in front of the word love, it just, like, when you really think about it, when you really sink into what even is love, it's like you're saying it's love. It's like all love is unconditional. And if it's conditional, it's not love. It's manipulation. It's coercion. But like, that's another topic for another day. Compassion and unconditional love, granting these things to yourself, writing yourself a permission slip. I give Carly permission to receive compassion and unconditional love from Carly. Signed, Carly. This is your choice. This is your freedom. Like, that feels really good to my system. But then again, I have been healing my Virgo South Node pretty much every day for close to a decade. Okay. So letting go of the standards of what you must do to qualify for love and compassion, that is a journey. that, again, that is a lot of what I do in my one-on-one work with people. It's also what I do at my events. So if you're on my mailing list, I do free events every once in a while. There's a link to join the newsletter down in the description box if you're interested in that. As far as like wanting to come and experience the event version of what I offer. And I also offer complimentary activation sessions where you and I can have a one-on-one conversation about what life you want to be living and what is standing in your way. What permission slip do you need to write for yourself and then honor so that you can live the life you want? Right? Like, what life do you want and how do you need to expand your comfort zone so you can go over there and get the life that you want rather than waiting for the life you want to come join you inside your comfort zone. It's so precious. The Pisces North Node is also about learning to go with the flow and trust the universe. The Virgo South Node wants you to trust the plan you made and to freak the F out when it doesn't go according to plan, okay? There's no flow in Virgo, like not at all. There's a plan, and when the plan fails, there's the contingency plan. That's the version of flow that exists on the Virgo South Node end of things. So learning to go with the flow is, again, a lot about your intuition, a lot about feeling. Like a fun little story that a client told me here just a couple days ago is like she was hosting a holiday party and she was personally feeling like really tapped out, like really drained, like just kind of had already had a long weekend and like, I just really want to cancel, but I can't cancel. I made a plan. I'm following through on it. I invited the people are coming, like, but I really want to cancel. I really don't feel like doing this. So you see, this is a real example of like, go with the flow, listen to your intuition. I'm exhausted. I don't want to do this. I don't feel like doing this. There's like actively like a part of me that's like pushing that thing away. And then there's the Virgo end of things that's like, but you made a plan. You gave your word. You invited people. They're coming. And so what do? Right? You can feel how you feel, but do you listen? Maybe. And that's a moment by moment, choice by choice thing, right? And some, like personally, I've gotten to a place where a couple months ago, I realized I'm really good at honoring how I feel over the plan. Like how I feel is more important to me. The plan is less important to me, except for in this one domain of life. I really struggle. And it's a professional setting and it's like a grocery side of what I do. And I find it really difficult to honor how I feel. It's so much easier to go with the plan, to just do what was established as the plan and like forget about how I feel. And like every bit of me is dreading this thing or having a really off-putting reaction to it. I don't want to rock the boat. We already planned, we said, we agreed. Like, so even I still struggle with this sometimes. But here's what's like really beautiful, okay? It's like the highest good of the all is always unfolding. Everything is always working out for everyone. So what happened in my friend's story, in my client's story, is she didn't cancel, but everybody else did. Everybody else who had been planning to come to her house for the party texted her, called her, like, I'm so sorry, like, I've got this other thing, like, I, have this and this and this, and everybody canceled. And so she got the gift of what she truly wanted was still honored by the universe. And that won't always be the case, but sometimes it is, right? And I think like the louder our intuition is, the more we're willing to even just hear it, the more chance the universe has to like actually give us what we want, whether we choose to line up with that or the universe inspires other people to line up with that on our behalf. Because again, the highest good of the all is always unfolding. We cannot subvert the highest good of the all, no matter how many plans we try to throw at it. Okay. So learning to go with the flow and trusting the universe. The North Node in Pisces is also about cultivating creativity and imagination. All right. And this is into the vein of like, everything is possible. We're going to talk about a little bit later the rulers of the Virgo South Node and the Pisces North Node. The traditional ruler of the Pisces energy is Jupiter. So like possibilities, vastness, wide open space, like total blank canvas. You can make it whatever you want. Like we are each the creator of our own reality, and we have the power to make our life whatever we want it to be. And so most people, when you start talking like that, where like I get so excited by a blank canvas, I'm naturally a very creative person, most people will feel overwhelmed because they're like, no, like I have a plan. See my plan? Like I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, because I think that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Like that's the right thing to do. You can do whatever you want. Okay. Like use your imagination. And little kids like come in with the imagination like fully built out. And then as we grow up, we are conditioned of the right thing to do, the smart thing to do, the logical thing to do. This is the logical choice. Okay. Like we get rewarded for being analytical and following the plan. Like my mom, I mean, bless her heart, because this is one of my superpowers, is like make a plan, follow the plan. Make a plan, work the plan, I believe is how she puts it. And yeah, I'm pretty good at that, except back in the day when the plan failed, and now I'm having a nervous breakdown because I don't know what to do next because my plan isn't working. And it's like, right, the plan was just an illusion of safety the entire time. And when we get creative and when we use our imagination, it's like there is no longer a failure in the plan. There's a new set of circumstances that are presenting themselves so that you can add to and expand your creation. There's no failure of anything. There's just new threads to weave into the tapestry. But weaving the threads into the tapestry takes creativity, takes imagination, to see that maybe there's a gift lurking under this shit show. Of course there is. The highest good of the all is always unfolding. Dude, you see, like I've brainwashed myself fully into wholeheartedly trusting the universe. And it's really disorienting to people who are still really rigid in the plan. It's also really life-giving to people who are wanting to give themselves permission to go with the flow of their own intuition, their own authenticity, and create the life of their dreams. So just notice, like, what is my energy bringing up in you? You know, I would say, like, I am the part of you that you are ready to see. Whether you are resisting what I'm saying or you're loving what I'm saying, like everything that I'm making you feel is already inside of you. Again, just my own personal beliefs. So let's see, we're cultivating our creativity and imagination. We're opening up to the metaphysical and unseen realms. All right. Pisces is about what we can't see, but what we can feel. So it expands our senses from our 5 see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it, 5 physical senses, and it opens us up into a realm where we have infinite senses. Okay. And this is again where, depending on how far along you are in your journey of opening up to the unseen, this could feel really uncomfortable, or it could feel like coming home. You know, just take a moment and see how it's making you feel. But the unseen realms, like you think about, like even a dog can see things that we don't see, can smell things that we don't smell. Like there are all kinds of things in reality hiding in plain sight that you can actually sense, or you can stay in the box of your 5 physical senses and make a plan out of the information that your 5 physical senses can pick up. Or you can shed a layer of the box and open up to the reality that there's actually a lot that cannot be physically interpreted, but can be intuitively interpreted. And you can start weaving those intuitive nudges into the plan into the direction that your life is taking. It's all possible, right? We're the creator of our own reality, and we can make it whatever we want it to be. And the last point on this North Node in Pisces piece is that we are practicing selfless service and empathy. So Virgo and Pisces have this selflessness in common. Like, that's something that's consistent on both ends of the axis, is that you just freaking care. You really, really, really care. And how you express how you care, the depth of your caring, how you express it, is guided by, are you more rooted in the Virgo end of the physical, the earth realm, the 3D, the physical senses? Or are you open to the metaphysical, to the other dimensions of reality that cannot be interpreted with your physical senses, but can be felt? Like, depending on where you operate, on which end of the spectrum you operate more, is what your selfless service is going to start to look like. And so the goal, though, is service, to be of service. And as a Virgo South Node, I could probably do like a whole day of gushing about my love affair with being of service. And often the people who gravitate into my field and who end up watching my work, this is one of the points that we really deeply resonate on, is being of service and the importance of making a contribution to your community. And that can look like a trillion different things. Okay, there's no right way. It's actually an opportunity to be creative and to express your authentic self by lining up your contribution and your unique act of selfless service. But that is in general what we're reaching for, is selfless service. And when you think about like being of service, that relates to empathy, because it's only of service if you're helping somebody else. So let's switch gears now and do our overview on the South Node in Virgo. And remember, the South Node is about our past life or our earliest conditioning that sets up our comfort zone, our default setting for finding safety and comfort and stability within our lives. We would look to our natal South Node. And during this time of the South Node in Virgo, everybody is going to have an emphasis on these things, okay? It's something that the entire collective will experience. And for more information on how the South Node in Virgo is affecting you personally, there is a companion guide to the free Pisces North Node guide that you can download by visiting owningauthenticity.com/Pisces North Node and uncover how to interpret the Pisces North Node transit, no matter what house that falls in for you personally. If you dig that, and you want to know about the Virgo South Node end, which would be the opposite house, you can get that guide in my Etsy shop for $9. Okay, I wanted to price it at a no-brainer. Like, if you want to know, this is a stack of valuable insights and guidance about how to integrate these things that we're getting ready to talk about based on where it shows up in your life. Okay, like a Virgo South Node transit in the 4th house is gonna look very different than a Virgo South Node transit, let's say, in the 9th house. Like, there's gonna be a different flavor and a different backdrop to these themes unfolding in your life, but the themes will be consistent for everyone in the collective. So that's what I'm gonna share here with the South Node in Virgo. The first theme is analytical and detail-oriented approach to life. Okay, when we talk about Virgo energy, we are talking about the, I would say, literal superpower to see the nitty-gritty details. Okay, and this is a blessing and a curse, like most superpowers usually are. To be able to see the nitty-gritty details means you have the information of all the details. And this is where the Virgo energy can get really frantic, because there's so many details in the earth realm. There's like an overload of details. And once you have the details, the urge is to analyze the details, to like go straight at it like a dog on a bone and chew it until it's gone. Except there's always more details. Okay, so here we are starting to set up the frantic spiral that gives way to a mental health crisis. Okay, and I don't say that lightly or jokingly because I have been in enough situations where my mental health is melting down before my eyes, where I am having a full-blown freak out. And almost always, as a natal Virgo South Node, it had to do with not being able to analyze all the details that I could see. And as part of this initial basis of laying down like the Virgo South Node, what I would come back to over and over and over these next 18 months, and this is something I have learned by living this life for the last 36 and a half years, is just because I can doesn't mean I should. Write it down. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. Should, and this is in a generous kind of should for you personally in this moment. How do you know if you should? Your intuition will tell you. How are you feeling? Are you leaning into that, or are you pushing it away emotionally, energetically? If you're pushing it away, then you shouldn't dive more into it. It's only going to make you feel worse to get closer to the thing that you're already trying to push yourself away from. If you're analyzing the details and it's lighting you up and it's giving you energy and you're having so much fun, like as I was putting together a 47-page guide on the Pisces North Node, dude, I brought my Virgo superpowers to the table on that one. I sure did. It was so fun to systematically work through putting all the details together on that guide. It was so fun. It was an act of creation. It was my imagination, like kind of filling out the loose edges and then my details, putting those into place where they went to complete this complete picture of the Pisces North Node guide. And then I did it again on the Virgo South Node guide because I loved it, because it was feeding me with life force energy to engage in this act of creation and let my Virgo detail orientedness serve me. That's very different than being overwhelmed by the details that are stressing you the F out and feeling like you're stuck in having to figure it out, having to put all the pieces together. And I hate this, and this is hard, and this is stupid, and I don't like it. Then maybe you shouldn't be doing that, right? And should and shouldn't, like there's like stop shoulding all over yourself. Like I'm using it here on purpose as far as like an internal discernment. Only you know if you should or shouldn't. That's an intuitive decision. And practicing our discernment of should or shouldn't based on how we feel is actually a beautiful merging and blending of the Virgo South Node gifts of discernment and the Pisces North Node gift of developing your intuition. Putting those two things together to let yourself analyze and collect details on things that light you up, and to let go, surrender the things that are causing you to have a mental health crisis. And the lack of letting go, the lack of surrendering things that are making you suffer, makes the mental health crisis get louder and louder and louder and louder until your body is screaming for your attention. Okay, so the gift of being analytical and detail-oriented can turn sour real quick when we're applying it to something that we really shouldn't be. And there's no right or wrong. There's no guide of like what to focus on. Like only you can know by how it's making you feel. Pisces North Node end. So another past life tendency of the South Node in Virgo is perfectionism and critical thinking. And for this one, again, I feel like I could do like a whole day's webinar on perfectionism and critical thinking. And I want to remind us all that the South Node represents gifts. Okay, Like the South Node represents gifts and strengths and superpowers that you can apply towards the development of the North Node end. So we're not trying to get rid of perfectionism. We're not trying to get rid of critical thinking. If anything, these are attributes and gifts that you could put to work for you and serve you in the evolution of your soul on the Pisces North Node end. Okay, so the perfectionism is really the gift of being able to see potential, right? Like, and again, I told you earlier in the video, like I light up when I look at a blank slate because I can already project with my Virgo energy, with my combination of Virgo Pisces, my imagination and my ability to fill in the details. I can project a whole picture onto a blank slate and then just sit there and do it until I make it all real. That's a beautiful freaking thing. Okay. Like that is not something that I would ever want to chop off of myself. But you got to know when enough is enough. And how do you know when enough is enough? How do you know when you shouldn't be perfecting it anymore? It's hurting you. We're back on the Pisces end of how are you feeling? Give yourself compassion and unconditional love. You don't have to prove anything. You can put the thing down and you're still worthy of love. And when we get real locked into the Virgo South Node end of things, we don't believe that. And again, we'll cling on to, no, I have to make it perfect. And the mental health struggle spirals. Another piece with the South Node in Virgo is that we are exceptionally focused on practical matters and tangible results. Okay, like there is an inherent distaste for what I described on the Pisces end of things with these unseen realms and this intangible progress and like, you know, soul evolution. What even does that mean? How do you measure it? Where's the measuring stick for soul evolution? Like, I don't like this. I can't measure it with my ruler. Okay. Like that is the Virgo perspective. And there's a time and a place for that. And if anything, you know, again, focusing on practical matters and tangible results, like paying attention to, I'm following my intuition and here's what that's creating in the practical. That's actually a beautiful thing when you get the spiral going towards you allowing yourself to receive compassion and unconditional love. Watch the tangible results that yields in your life. Okay. Like, please do that experiment for yourself, for the benefit of your own inner child and every inner wounded part of you. Trust the universe and watch the tangible results. Really go all in on the belief that everything is always working out for me. Can I prove it? Kind of no, except I've lived it long enough that now I have enough tangible results to point to say yes. So like the proof will show up when you're willing to look for it. But the trick is like, which part comes first? Am I acting first and willing to let the proof kind of fill in underneath? Or am I requiring the proof in the beginning and I'll only act on the proof that's already present? Again, that's where the spiral can really go into a downward place. Is like, I have to have the proof before I can take action. Pisces North Node is about a leap of faith, right? Pisces is about the faith to believe that this thing is going to work out for you because I can feel it. The proof will catch up, but not if you stay stuck and like the proof has to show it to the proof has to show itself to me, and then I'll do the thing. If that's where you're living, that's the attitude of like, I'm going to stay in my comfort zone and the thing that I want better come over here and join me in my comfort zone. It doesn't work like that. The next one is a tendency to overanalyze and worry. Okay. And like worry is, this is a quote I've pulled from somewhere. I don't remember who said it, so I can't credit it, but worry is a misuse of imagination. All right. So like what I would say is like, if you're really good at worrying, you actually have a really strong imagination because you're just making shit up. And you're making shit up that makes you feel bad. That's worry. Versus like imagination, typically when we say that word, the connotation around it is that we're like fantasizing, which has a much more positive feeling connotation to it. So like as you are picturing things in your mind, as you are future tripping, does it make you feel good? If yes, get more specific. If you're future tripping and it is giving you a panic attack, you are spinning in the Virgo South Node end of things, and it's time to introduce some Pisces energy. How do I do that? That's what we answer on the PDF that you can download at owningauthenticity.com/Pisces North Node. The next one on the Virgo South Node end of things is skilled at organization and problem solving. Okay, and this is largely due to a lot of the things that we've talked about so far, as far as like critical thinking and tangible results and like being able to see an outcome that you want and then make a plan to get yourself there. Like that's a matter of organization and problem solving. And like I was talking to somebody the other day about project management, for example, is a good Virgo South Node profession. And without meaning to, I found myself into being a professional project manager before I knew anything about astrology. So like just kind of funny there. But anyways, skilled at organization and problem solving. Like when I go into a project, typically they're very large. They're bigger than you would ever be able to organize in your mind. And that is by definition a large project. If you can organize it in your mind, it's not a large project. Okay. And a lot of people who aren't professional project managers, they don't have experience managing large projects. When it comes to a large project, something you can't deal with inside your mind, you have tools. You have like an Excel spreadsheet. You have a software program that can like do the dates. You have a special calendar for deliverables. You have document after document after document after document to put things in writing that you need to execute the plan and to give to all of the other people who are executing the plan with you. So, and then when it comes to problem solving, it's like, well, I know where I'm trying to go. I know how I was going to get there. So this little bridge is gone. So, okay, well, can I go a little bit down this way and like come around at it from this side? You know, my contractor bailed on me. Okay, so who's my backup plan? And this problem solving is just switching between the primary plan you're trying to follow and the backup plan that you already made. Part of the beginning of managing a large project is to do a risk assessment and then make a backup plan for if every single one of those risks were to happen. All right, so this is Virgo. This is the Virgo South Node. Like this is being really, really strong in your Virgo energy, is being able to tackle mountains of detail, to solve problem after problem after problem after problem, to attain the tangible result that you want. So this is, again, nothing that I would ever want to chop off of myself and leave behind. We get to keep all of that, and we get to apply it towards something that has us feeling compassion and love. We get to apply it to our creativity, to our most best case, ideal, imagined version of our life, right? Like think of your dream life as a large project. And you're getting all of your things together and you're applying every bit of your focus and intentional effort, your problem solving, your critical thinking at bringing your dream life into reality. This is how I live my life. And this is how I help my clients in our one-to-one coaching spaces. And the last piece on South Node in Virgo is that you may have been in service-oriented roles. Most likely you live to serve other people. You live to solve problems that people bring you. Like at the height of me working in the software company in my 20s, where I first became a project manager, I was in a role where I had people in five different offices on 4 different continents, working basically 24/7, 365 between all of the different time zones. Like there was maybe 1 hour in the middle of the night where the the Australia team hadn't shown, or like they hadn't quit yet, and the UK team hadn't shown up yet. Like there's like teeny little chunk of time where nobody needs anything. The rest of the time, 24/7, 365, I've got roughly 70 people all over the world who are like, Carly, what about this? Carly, what about this? My client has this and they said this isn't working. Like, what's the update on this project? They want this thing that doesn't exist yet. How do I start that request? Like on and on and on and on. And I loved it until I had enough of the mental breakdowns that it also would lead me into. Like, I would sit there and just work for like 12, 14 hours a day. I would go home from work. I would get my laptop out. I would sit on the couch and I would work and I would work and I would work and I would answer requests and I would be of service and be of service and be of service and be of service. This was all before my self-care initiation. This was before my spiritual awakening. This was just me doing my default mode. Serve, 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 serve. This is a realization that I came to only within these last couple years, but the South Node in Virgo is kind of like slavery energy, only you are a slave to yourself. You are both slave and master. You are both slave and slave driver. Okay. And the only one who has the key to your shackles is you. Okay, so we will wrap up this overview video with one more chapter on the lessons to learn and potential pitfalls. Okay, so the lessons to learn are really summarized as consciously introducing more Pisces energy. And again, you can get the PDF of how to introduce that energy based on which house Pisces falls in for you by visiting owningauthenticity.com/Pisces North Node. But let me run through these lessons to learn real quick. I think we've touched on most of these, but just as a good summary. So the power of surrender and acceptance. Acceptance is really the opposite of criticism. And you think about how you treat yourself when you make a mistake, right? Like, do you beat up on yourself? Do you force yourself to like feel guilty and I must fix it and I must pay retribution and I must be punished because I made this, like, how dare I be human? Or do you accept that, like, yeah, I'm a person and people make mistakes sometime and I'm going to correct it. I'm going to like make it right. But like that can still be a peaceful, compassionate journey to myself and to other people. You know, I don't have to beat the hell out of myself just because I'm imperfect. Everyone is all the time. The next lesson to learn is finding meaning beyond the material world. And I am especially connected with this because a lot of the people who find my one-to-one coaching come to it from a place of they have had something in the material that they really wanted, that they've been pursuing for a long time. They finally get it. And instead of feeling better like they thought they would, they feel worse. So what the hell is that about? And I personally came to spirituality from very much the same kind of place of like, I was achieving all the goals that I was ever taught of like, this is how you be successful. This is what you do. Just climb this ladder. And once you get to the top, you ring this bell and you'll feel great. I got to the top, I rang the bell, and I did not feel great. I actually felt worse at the top of the ladder than I did at the bottom. And I was like, WTF. And this is where a lot of my clients are also finding the coaching work that we do together, because life satisfaction does not actually happen in the material world. It happens in the spiritual, emotional world. Satisfied is a feeling. And that is something that we think once we get the thing, we get the house, we get the lover, we get the relationship, we get the kids, we get the promotion, we get the business, like whatever it is, we think once we have that thing, then I'll feel the way I want to feel. And when it doesn't work out, we're more confused than ever. And that's because meaning And satisfaction in life doesn't exist in the material. It's not a reflection of what we have or what we possess or what we own or what we bought in the physical world. It has nothing to do with it. And actually, I would say getting more of the material things can actually make you feel emptier and emptier. The next lesson to learn is the healing potential of forgiveness and compassion. Again, going back to how do you treat yourself when you mess up? How do you treat yourself when you fall short? How do you treat yourself when you don't do it perfectly? Are you gentle and kind and compassionate with yourself, or do you read yourself the riot act? Because every relationship in our life is really a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. So I say all of this to make the relationship with self as conscious as it can be, as aware of it as we can be, so that we become conscious of what energy are we feeding into our relationships, right? Like a lot of people try to fix it from the outside in. They try to fix the relationship. They try to get the other person to be different so that they can feel better, missing the point that they are a reflection of you. So if you want they to be different, if you want the other person to change yourself. Okay, it doesn't exist in the material world. The answer is in the emotional, your own personal emotional. Well, but I feel that way because they did such and such and such and such. Yeah, but what if they're reacting to you? What if they only did that because of what you did first? It's like, how far back in the chain do we have to go to make it your responsibility? How far back in the chain do we have to go to have you be the one holding the power for what your life is? Food for thought. The next lesson is in recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, right? We are all part of the same divine fabric of life. I talked about at the very beginning, like seeing the sacred in everything. Life is sacred. You are sacred. Your emotions are sacred. Your ego is sacred. Everything is sacred. Like Albert Einstein said, you can look at life as if nothing is a miracle or as if everything is. And if you choose the latter, that includes you. Potent stuff. The next lesson is in balancing service to others with self-care. Okay, like again, the Virgo South Node wants to serve. Let me give. But you've probably heard the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Like some of my most favorite experiences in my 20s were working at the software company when I had a team of about 70 people who needed me, and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And that leading to some of my most traumatic mental breakdowns. And that being the wake-up call of like, it can't all be exhale, right? Like imagine if you never inhaled, like, nope, I only exhale. I'm a giver. Exhale, 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 exhale. That's called passing out, like literal physical breakdown. It doesn't take very long of only giving in order to literally crash, right? And so we have to inhale. We have to pour into ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. And especially with the interconnectedness of all things, when you really think about it, my self-care is an act of selfless service to the all. Me taking really good care and processing the energy that's inside of me, healing the relationship that I have with myself, is an act of service to the all. Finding and staying connected to the sacred that is me is an act of service to the all. And yours is the same. We want to give so badly, and really the most powerful giving we can do is to ourselves, is in pouring into ourselves such that we create such massive overflow. and that overflow of love and generosity and attention and caring and compassion and forgiveness and acceptance that we give to ourselves, it becomes an overflow that falls onto every single person we ever come into contact with. That is service. And it starts with what you give to yourself. And the last one, the lesson to learn, the last one we're going to talk about is trusting in the flow of life rather than trying to control every detail. Just like we said at the very beginning, the North Node is uncomfortable. Okay, so letting go of control, trusting in the flow. I get it. If you're like, no freaking way, I can't do that. That's too hard. Of course it's hard. That's the whole point of the North Node journey, is that it's the unknown. It's the unpracticed. It's the undeveloped. But that doesn't mean that you can't practice it. That doesn't mean that you can't develop it. And that is what I dedicated the whole guide, the Pisces North Node guide, to like, okay, so then how do I develop it? Download the guide, owningauthenticity.com/Pisces North Node, and work with your own Pisces energy in your chart, right? Like experiment with it in the life area where Pisces is for you, and you'll have the best success of practicing this. And we're going to close with the potential pitfalls, which really are summarized as, like I said at the very beginning of the video, it's like we're not trying to cut off the Virgo South Node end of things and only go towards Pisces, right? Like it's a balance. And right now, they're out of balance. The Virgo South Node energy is way more dominant than the Pisces North Node energy. And that's okay, because we're going to give attention to the Pisces North Node energy. We're going to make it bigger, and we're going to bring them more into balance where we can have this like reciprocal back and forth ebb and flow of these two energies working together. The potential pitfalls are when you kick Virgo off the teeter-totter. You're like, I don't want to play with you anymore. You go away. And you only have Pisces, you end up in the same freaking spot. Right now, Pisces is sitting on the ground. There's nobody on the other end to like balance this out so that you have this ebb and flow back and forth. So these potential pitfalls are like, what if Pisces energy is the only energy you're working with? It's not a pretty picture, just like when Virgo energy is the only energy you're working with. Okay, they're meant to be in harmony. They're meant to complement each other. The gifts of Pisces are healing and soothing the shadows of Virgo. The gifts of Virgo are healing and soothing the shadows of Pisces. They go together. So the potential pitfalls, number one, is escaping into fantasy or addiction to avoid practical responsibilities. Okay, so basically being addicted to avoiding reality. Virgo representing physical reality. Also, becoming overly idealistic and disconnected from reality. Being ungrounded is another way that you could say that. Difficulty setting boundaries due to increased empathy. You care so much, you can feel so much that you feel compelled to soothe and heal and care and hold and serve. But just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? We're inviting discernment in at every single step of this process. Next, we have confusion or lack of direction without concrete goals. So keeping one eye on reality, one eye on the starting point of like, where am I coming from, is very important then as we start dreaming into the fantasy of like, okay, so what does my ideal version look like? What does my dream life look like? And that is information that we need. And then we have to come back into current reality, come back into our life as it stands right now, and start taking steps from where we currently are. So grounding the vision into our right now reality is really the art of balancing Pisces with Virgo. And last but not least, we have a potential pitfall of neglecting your physical health or practical matters in general in the pursuit of spiritual growth. So again, forgetting that one or the other, either you're a human being having a spiritual experience or you're a spiritual being having a human experience. Either way, you're a human. Okay? No matter how you want to look at it, you exist in the 3D. And you've got to do things like feed your body, give it some water, take it out in the sunshine once in a while, lap it around the block every so often, like the physical body has needs that must be attended to in order for the spiritual experience to continue, regardless of whether the spiritual experience is primary or secondary, right? Either you're a human being having a spiritual experience or you're a spiritual being having a human experience. Either way, grounding into reality is soothing for our health, our mental, emotional, and physical health. And when all of those are in balance, it really does open up the space to have a rich spiritual life, a rich spiritual experience, which I would put forth is where true life satisfaction comes from, is by weaving in the spiritual dimensions. But then again, the disclaimer over all of this is that I'm a Pisces North Node. So for my soul to find life satisfaction, I have to weave in the Pisces elements. I have to. That's where my North Node is pointing me. That's where my soul's evolution is taking me. For you, it may be different, and that's okay. That's okay. For you, it may look very different depending on what house Pisces is in your chart. To look more into that and find how this transit is affecting you personally, again, I highly recommend the Pisces North Node guide for interpreting the Pisces North Node energy based on whatever house Pisces lands in your natal chart. So you can download that by going to owningauthenticity.com/Pisces North Node. Get your free copy, come into your email. If you end up being interested in the complimentary guide to that, the Virgo South Node guide, you can get that on my Etsy shop, and there will be a link to that along with the Pisces North Node guide. So until the next video in this series where we dive deep into the Pisces North Node, I hope you are taking such good care of the spiritual being you are, of the human being you are. I wish you all the love and compassion that you deserve simply for existing. And I'll see you soon. Okay.